What's going on, guys? Emo Tempest here today, and we are back for another Triple Triad, a special edition of the Triple Triad podcast. I'm your host, Emo Tempest, and today I have a couple of interesting FF7 Remake fans, or this fans, I'm not sure yet. We're going to get into that discussion here today. This was just for fun. We wanted to get out here and talk about the game, our pros and cons, likes and dislikes, theories and facts, and probably our favorite moments up until now. I have David Ducassi, the Arcanum, on here. Say
what's up, everyone?
I got TCG Titans Sergio Bravo. What's up, buddy?
Hey guys, how's it going?
And I got our local Magic FFTCG enthusiast, David Melendez.
Hey guys.
Also known as DJ Tacos. And so, yeah, today we're just going to go ahead and talk about, give our thoughts on the remake. And I think I'm going to start off with DJ Tacos today. He was really eager to get us all on here to talk about it. David, go ahead and take it away, Melendez.
Sure you want to start with me? I mean, like
I do. So go ahead. Look. So really, first of all, give me your rundown, man. Like, you're not the hardcore fanboy, obviously, right? You're the neutral. I play all the Final Fantasies because I like the games, right? But you didn't swoon over the original.
Okay. So here's my thing. I never actually got to play the original.
Okay.
So in order to prepare for this, I actually had to watch. I watched a speed run. I know it's not really the best way to do it, because I ended up playing this first, and it left a lot of things unanswered for me. So that's why I had to go back and go watch the speed run just to get like the full story. Like I had already seen Advent Children. I played through Dirge of Cerberus, and I didn't really play through Crisis Core, but I kind of understood the story, but like kind of going into it. But I really loved Remake. There's nothing wrong with it for me. There's like maybe like a few parts that kind of dragged. It felt like it could have been shortened, but honestly, for me, I think the game was amazing. I loved it. For me, it's like 10 out of 10. I don't know. I don't know what else I could say. Like,
okay,
that's what I like about it. But yeah, I'd get into it.
Okay, so no, that's fine, and I appreciate that. Like, okay, so that is one take. Now, I know, if I remember correctly, actually, Sergio and David Ducassi, you were both like original fanboys of the original, right? Like.
Oh yeah, it is not only my favorite Final Fantasy, but it is honestly one of my favorite games, period, of all time.
Is that
same for me. I think I have it rated in my top 3. You always have some things that fluctuate back and forth, but it's always at the top for me. That's one of my favorite games of all time.
Okay, so I'll take it to you, Sergio. What are your comparisons, like going from beginning to end, as much as we got from the original story? Obviously, I think we should all know by now that like whenever the Whispers show up, that's supposed to be like when the paths are changing, right? That's like it's not the same as the original, and they're trying to keep it on track. How do you feel about all that, like the Whispers and when the things start to change in the remake?
Man, you came at me with like the most controversial thing. First.
Well, this is the pod. This is the one where that's what we're here for.
Yeah. The Whispers are such an interesting way to kind of like curb expectations, where things are starting to play out in a different way, and then the Whispers come and bring it back to like what's supposed to happen in the original game. And it's a very like meta look at like the story, like it's a story that if you've played the original game like I have like multiple times, you know exactly what's supposed to happen and where. And these Whispers come and change everything back to that way, and everything's kind of like they don't really affect the overall story that much if you follow the original until you get to like chapter 18, and that's when things just really go totally off the rails. And I felt like for me, like the Whispers were bothering me most of the time until we reached the end, and that was like the payout. I was like, oh, okay, I see now. That's why we've been like following these little Whispers around the whole time, like. That's my take on it. So I didn't dislike it. I was kind of weirded out by it, and I was just waiting for an answer. And when I finally got it, I was like, okay, this makes perfect sense. I agree with this.
So
yeah, go ahead.
This is where I've got to jump in, right? Because like So okay, I should probably preface this with I played the game with two different viewpoints in my mind, right? Playing it as myself, and I'm like, yeah, I've played the original, love this game. I want to see what they're turning it into. And also, as I was playing through it, I always kept in the back of my mind how, because it's been long enough that you're going to have a new generation of players, right, who've never played the original. And so, how would someone who's new come into the game, and what would they experience? And because I have friends who've never played it, who I'm like, oh man, you should totally play it. And they're like, and then after a while, I was like, I can't recommend it to you anymore because if you don't have the nostalgia that I do or that we do, going back and playing something with those kinds of graphics can be tough for some people. So I was waiting for this, and I've been wanting to recommend this to those people. And just like Sergio said, the whispers jump in every time that the story is about to change, and they kind of keep things on track. I'm assuming we're going spoiler
Oh yeah, we definitely we're going 100% spoilers. I probably should have mentioned that. If it's not too late, guys, you should know that the rest of this podcast will have a lot of spoilers. Please continue. So I see this. I see the whispers. Oh, first off, before I say that, so as I was playing through the game, 90% of it, I'm like, God, oh my God, this is great. If you're a new player and you don't know the old story, cool. You're being walked through it. It's great. You're not missing anything. You don't feel like you're missing anything. The fact that, Sergio, you were saying that Tacos, that you were saying that you had to go back and like learn some of the original story breaks me on this, right? Because I was like, and it's because of that. You start getting those flashes, and if you haven't played the original, you don't know what those flashes are. And when I was playing through the game, the whispers I found frustrating, but also just because of the nature of the genre, I was like, I'm going to suspend all feelings until the end. I know this is going to come in later, and they're going to explain this and be like, here you go. And then as you get to the end and you find out what they are and what they're trying to do, I was like, oh, okay, hesitant. And then you freaking fight them, and oh my God, the meta of this. Like, I think the one thing that I haven't heard anyone say is that not only is it Square Enix's way of telling you, hey, like this stayed faithful, but now we're gonna go change things. I feel like we are the whispers, and then we are also the players. So it's like they set it up so that you have to break your own
expectations.
Exactly, break your own expectations, and kind of give them the okay to go change the story. And I'll be completely honest, I love the game. Like Taco said, 10 out of 10. I think it was very well done. I could do without the multiverse, which is what the theory is that's going on, multi-timelines. I think the story is complicated enough, but at the same point, I'm also like, I'm like giving Square Enix my trust. I'm like, here you go. Please, like, if this was anyone else, I'd be like, yo, you fucked it up. But I'm like, I see you want to try something. I trust you. Here you go. I'm giving you my heart. Please don't break it. So I'm waiting to see what the other installments turn like.
So the real thing to me is right now is that I guess what the real question is, what's going to be canon now, right? Like, assuming there is a different timeline, or assuming we are going to be able to change the events that we know are going to happen, right? Obviously, the biggest one being Aerith and what happens to her. Like, is it going to change what's actually meant to happen, or is this something that's going to be rewritten going down the road? And I don't know, Tacos, what are your thoughts on that? Like,
okay, so pretty much like with the Whispers gone. Okay, so what I kind of understand is kind of like, I think it's like 3 or 4 timelines going on. You've got your original timeline. Mm-hmm. You've got the one that we're currently playing. Mm-hmm. And then seeing the ending, you see that Zack is alive. That's another timeline, because if you pay careful attention to that potato chip bag with the picture of Stamp on it, yep. It's different than what we have in the timeline that we're playing.
Correct.
There might be a 4th one. I'm thinking maybe that like the where you go at the end, there's possibly another timeline. And then I don't know if you guys realize the 3 whispers that you fight along with the Harbinger.
Or supposedly.
They're supposed to. I don't know if they really are, but they're very similar to the Advent Children, if you pay close attention to them. So if you scan them, with the CES, one of them has guns. They have two guns. One of them has a sword, and the other one fights with a fist. But if you realize, what was it?
Right, they're Cloud, Bear, and Tifa is the current running theory.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah,
getting
but-
at too. But there's also that his theory.
Yeah, but if you look at them, like the one with the fist has that one gauntlet that Laws has. Then the one with the two guns, Baird has one gun arm, but there's two gun arms on that one, and Yazoo has two guns, and then the sword is one-handed. So I believe it's supposed to be the Advent Children, and then the big one is called the Harbinger, right? There is a reference in Advent Children that I'm looking at my notes here. I'm sorry.
No, don't be-
So Vincent refers to Genova as like the Dark Harbinger, right? So it's possibly that, and then the fact that they also summon Bahamut in Advent Children. So that's what I think. But anyways, I'm getting off topic. The question about the timeline, right? Like as far as like what can be changed. Let's put this. So I'm thinking that Sephiroth is giving them the illusion. Things they can take things like things can alter. But I think he's setting them up, like especially like Cloud. Like he tells them like 7 seconds. What are you gonna do, right? That's the amount of time that it takes for him to kill Aerith. So he's basically giving him that hint. So I think like he's setting him up to like he knows what he can do, and it's still gonna happen anyways. I think that has to happen. Aerith is gonna have to die. Otherwise, like how does the live stream, help with Holy when the meteor comes down? So I mean, I don't know too much. Like I know you guys have played it more. I don't know that much into the story, but that's what I took from it when I looked at the the quick rope.
No, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I was thinking the same thing. I hadn't heard I haven't heard the Advent Children piece, so that's new for me. But the 7 seconds that Sephiroth talks about, I was thinking the same thing, because I was like, as soon as I pieced those two pieces together, that it took him 7 seconds to kill Aerith. I'm like, oh my god, he's trying to stop everyone from. He's trying to make it so they save Aerith, so she's not there to stop him at the end. I mean, obviously, like the game ends is gonna have to end with us with the group beating him, right? Somehow. But I think he's trying to change things to his benefit, and I think that's a piece of it. I think Aerith has to die in order for things to work out.
Yeah, I mean, maybe because like everything else in the original timeline like is still playing out. You still have, Sephiroth like giving Cloud like visions of the past, but then you get the new one. That's another thing. There's like 4 different Sephiroths in the game. So the one that we meet like at the end seems to have like no things like in the future, and you can see like since the beginning, like after you finish, when you're in chapter 2, where he sees everything like it's on fire, like in Nibelheim. Mm-hmm. He's basically delaying Cloud from seeing Aerith when she's supposed to. So when you run into Aerith, it's as if like the Whispers are holding her in place, so that way she still has to meet Cloud.
I didn't pick up on that.
That's crazy. Yeah. That's a.
So that happens, and then like I don't know, like I started replaying it, and I started doing different options. So like the first one I did was like when she offers you the flower, she just gives it to you. But then if you tell her like you're not interested in it, she still makes it a habit. Like she has to give you the flower anyways. Like she knows what's going on, and they imply it like at several points in the game. And then afterwards, like the Whispers scare her off because she's taking too much time. She's delaying the events again.
Yeah, because the Shinra soldiers are showing up, and in the original, she's gone by the time they show up. And here, the conversation was dragging on so long that they were showing up while she was still there. So it was kind of shooing her away. Have you talked? Have you the different scenes you can get when you're staying at Aerith's house? Have you seen all three? This goes to everyone.
No, I haven't. So I've only played it once, and then I won't lie. The replayability is kind of has me hesitant to go back in and play it on hard mode again. But we're gonna move on to that topic in a second, like later. But no, I haven't seen those.
Okay, well, so if you get Aerith in those scenes, she actually tells you, like, don't fall in love with her. Further proving to Taco's point that, like, she knows what's going on.
Yeah, and I originally got that feeling, like, from the first play, like, that she was all knowing, and that kind of bugged me from the beginning. Like, I wasn't sure, like, I didn't remember her being like that in the original, so that's why I don't know.
Agreed. It did bug me a little bit, especially, like, I didn't pick up on it as quickly as Tacos may have, but especially later on when she starts being a little weird, I was like, oh, like, come on, like. But again, that's part of the suspending. I'm like, hopefully they do something good with it. But yeah, there are several points where she kind of like gives you those little tidbits.
Sergio, so any theories you have on all this that were?
In terms of like what you were saying, like the alternate timelines and all that, I don't even think that's a theory. I think that's just facts. That's what's happening. That's what we're seeing. So for me, actually, when I finally finished wrapping up the game, like I was looking at it more almost like a sequel by that point to the original versus like a remake, right? Because what's happening from the beginning of the game is that characters in the game already have knowledge about events that are going to happen in the future, right? So Sephiroth knows what's going to happen, so he's trying to change fate. And, Aerith, like you guys were saying, I know some of you guys didn't like this, but I really like the fact that Aerith has like kind of like a little bit more, I guess, clout, you would say. Like she seems to be more in tune with like her ancient side, right? And they kind of like give that a little bit more meaning in this game. And so like people seem to know what's going to happen, like what's coming down the line. And so then this affects the events of this game, and very particularly affects the ending, you know? So I feel like now it's almost like a sequel that's just kind of like happening like on an alternate timeline. And that's the way I'm looking at it right now anyways.
I'm actually glad that you brought up the idea of that it being a sequel, because I'm actually my personal theory is that so I don't remember what like X-Men like comic series this is. I think it's fairly new, but there's this I don't even know which X-Men it's about, right? But like I guess they have the power to reincarnate, and every time they reincarnate, they're supposed to try to get all the X-Men together. And eventually it runs out of reincarnations and stuff. I think that's kind of what's happening here. I think, this is me, like I think that they kind of adopted something similar where Aerith is actually reincarnating every time after she's killed and trying to like do it again and fix it. And that kind of ties in with her knowing everything and kind of trying to stop because she's done it so many times. And so it is kind of like it is another timeline, but it's also a continuation of what's already happened. She doesn't actually know everything that happens from the original after she dies, but she's trying to like, or maybe she does too, because at some point, like the whole thing is that she goes into the life stream and then goes back into the planet, right? So she knows what happens in some degree, right? Because she's an ancient. Stop me if I'm wrong there.
No, you're good on most of that.
Yeah,
and I do like that they are playing up the ancient piece now.
Yeah, and so the thing is that I assume that at some point, maybe what's actually happening is that when she returns to the live stream, she actually is reincarnated in like her own life and trying to do it again and trying to do it over, and maybe that's something that they'll touch on. But yeah, I agree. It feels like, to me, it felt a little bit like a part 2 or like a redo. But yeah.
There's also a moment that I noticed because so I just finished the game like a few days back, and I started doing the hard mode run. And in chapter 2, I think it is, when he finally gets to the slums, There's a moment right when he gets to it, some guy talks to him and he has one of those quick like flashes, and he looks up and he sees like a piece of the plate falling, and he like braces to like stop it. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know if you guys noticed that. It happens like real quickly, and then he carries on, right? But like that's something that he shouldn't have flashes of, because that's something that's going to happen later in the story. And so it's interesting that Cloud is having these kind of like visions of the future at some point in the story.
Well, and they all have them as you get closer to the end, right?
Yeah.
So unless Aerith or Sephiroth are causing those images, like what's the reasoning behind it?
Yeah. Yeah, very, very interesting stuff, I think.
My biggest thing with the game, the only reason I have any gripe with it at all is the fact it's just the expectation, right? Like they were. I feel like the expectation set for this from the get go is like, hey, we're gonna remake the old game. Like, had they told us, hey, it's not gonna be a faithful retelling, or it's gonna be a reimagining, or a sequel, or whatever, or even just didn't lean on it so heavily, because I feel like a lot of the information out there was like, we're remaking it. So I was thinking I was going to get one thing, and then we were led down a different path. Or like I kind of feel like it was a bait and switch.
Can I give my thoughts on this?
Yes, of course.
So I don't know everything about what they were telling people, but at least what I think the remake in the title is not actually like. All right, so I did some research. So they were saying that they were saying that if they were to ever do this again, it would be to add something new to it. So honestly, like I think remake is actually like the title like of each chapter is gonna have like a title, and I think for the first one, I think it's actually remake. This is Sephiroth trying to remake the timelines, and it's kind of like affecting all of them. Like I said, I guess he's trying to. I don't know what he's trying to do with the first one. I think, like in the timeline where Zack's alive, if Zack's alive, Cloud is never there, and he can't stop Sephiroth like in that timeline, right? But in this one, I'm not too sure. But I mean, I think that's where they were going with it. Like as far as the title for this game, I don't think the whole thing is supposed to be a remake, but I think that's part of the title.
Now that you mention that, this thought had just occurred to me. Is it possible that all the Whispers were busy in our timeline, so they couldn't so that's why Zack lived in that timeline, because all the Whispers weren't there to make sure it happened the same?
I think the Whispers affect all timelines. So once you got rid of them in one timeline, it got rid of them in all of them.
Interesting. Oh, there you go. That's another point too.
Yeah, and I think that's the other piece, right? We're only seeing necessarily like two necessarily that were affected, but I think this opens up the possibility, because like Taco said, all the whispers transcend all timelines, and now they're gone. So now you can have different characters from different timelines jump in. It's going to confuse a lot of things, and I hope they don't go too crazy with it. But I think it's all timelines.
Now we're going to have a crossover is what's going to happen too, right? Like someone's going to time travel from another game. I
don't think they're that far.
So I can't remember who it was that mentioned this to me, but someone was saying that it's related. I think it was Lobo, actually. Lobo was telling me how it's related to 8, because there's a kid named Shinra in 10. No, not 8, in 10. And so, I don't know, man. And then Ultimecia is going to get involved, and then this is going to be a mess.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Well, I will say, I don't know if you guys noticed, the last boss looks incredibly like the very first boss in Kingdom Hearts, the Dark Side.
Yeah.
So this could be a Kingdom Hearts tie-in coming in real fast.
I did get a big Kingdom Hearts feel from the whole game, honestly.
It's the same guy, so it makes sense.
Yeah. I guess, just because...
What I think...
No, go ahead, Go ahead, David.
I was going to say, the one thing I do think that this opens up to, outside of just the main series, because it's not even a trilogy anymore. I think they announced that they don't know how many this is going to be. This opens them up to do side games now as well, where you can be in different timelines or whatever, and like kind of like Dirge of Cerberus and everything like they did before. Now they have a canon way of doing anything they want basically in a side game.
Ugh. I don't know. I'm gonna draw the line at 3, honestly. If not, I'm gonna wait for like the deluxe edition with all 10 episodes to come out. Like, okay, I think the theory has been great, and if you guys want to go back to it, that's fine. But I'm gonna give you my piece on this extended game, parts thing. So like realistically, it's either they're gonna have to make you start over in every game, right? Because if your battle data transfers or your character data transfers, how are you gonna are you still gonna stay at level 50 and then just start from level 50? And then I don't even think they're gonna give us an open world, because my biggest thing with this game was that there was no open world, and it felt very confined and limited. Honestly, like 2.5 slums, right? And then like the main one dies or whatever, gets like the play dropped on it. So it's like, I don't know. I had my problems with that, and then showing me Kate Sith and like in one little cutscene and just like forgetting all about it, and then not letting me play as Red 13. Come on, man, what is with that?
I mean, it's kind of late in the game though. Why would they let you play as Red 13 when you're already at the end of the game?
I feel like Kate Sith was definitely a tease, but the Red 13 they actually talked about.
I know they talked about it, but still, it's like, I don't know. They give us a whole new character, and it would have been something cool to play with, at least, man.
What was the explanation to that? Because I never heard that.
So go ahead, Emo. If you
I know they mentioned it. They made like a piece on it on like their Instagram or Facebook page, or I don't know, somewhere. But I didn't finish it or read it all.
Oh, okay. The gist of it is they were actually struggling on what to do with Red 13, because he's introduced so late in the game that making him a playable character means that they have to do all of the work behind making him a playable character. And to introduce him as a playable character at the very end, and you get to play him for like a chapter or two, they felt that wasn't necessarily right, so they were going to save that for the next game. But they didn't want to delay it and bring him in later either, so they actually made him the way that they made him now, specifically as a kind of like a, hey, this is for you guys, so you can have him in your party, but at the same time, we're not introducing a new character that you have to like equip and everything at the very end of the game. I think it was a pretty good decision. Like, I get the frustration. I definitely wanted to play as him as well.
Yeah,
but him being so late in the game, having him just kind of follow you as a guest character, I thought was a pretty creative solution.
What do you guys think about that, Sergio?
Yeah. That doesn't sell me.
So the problem.
I think he definitely should have been playable. Like, that's the moment he becomes playable, in the original, and from this point on, he's going to be part of the party. Like, unless you tell me that like he's not going to be in the next one, which wouldn't make any sense at all. You know what I mean? But I felt it should have been a playable character. It felt to me like they just didn't have the time to put it together, and they're like, nah, forget it. He's just going to be a guest. Don't worry about it.
Oh, exactly. They were. This is definitely crunch to the end.
That's what it seemed like.
That's why I was like, okay, rather than like if you didn't have time to make him a play, like build everything out, I'll take this. Would I have waited an extra couple months for him to be a playable character? Hell yeah,
absolutely.
But I get the business side of it.
I think it makes it awkward too, right? Because like every character at this point has collected like 6 or 7 weapons, and all their abilities come from there. So like, where would all of Red's stuff come from? Like, you just have to like pick him up in the party. Like, oh, by the way, I brought these 6 hair pieces with me, so not a problem.
here's all these hairpins.
It just doesn't really. I guess it doesn't really mesh with like the system that they had created for like leveling and all that.
Yeah.
Where most of your stuff comes from like those spheres on the weapons.
I will say, since you were talking about the added pieces, Emo, I thought all of the added pieces here were amazing. I love the extra attention to Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge, and their side stories and everything. What this one did, because I played the original, I must have been 8 years old, and when I played the original. Let me just first say this game is the first time I ever cried for a game, probably ever. First time I cried for anything outside of being spanked. But when Aerith died, when the plate fell, I was like, oh man, that sucks. This time, like that like it was heart wrenching. I was like, you you fell in love with all of these characters and you feel it so much more. So like I feel like even the moments that feel a little bit more drawn out, like all had a purpose, and all of that gave everything more meaning.
I'm 100% behind that. So like just for anyone listening too, it's like I played the original eventually. I think my brother played it when I was younger, so I saw it, and then I played it eventually, but I was still very like nonchalant about it. I just wanted to play it to say I played it. And so it didn't stick with me, I'll be honest, right? So playing this one for me was very like eye-opening to see like what happened, like more elaborated anyway. So in that regard, I do really appreciate that, like the Jessie stuff. Like I don't know if they mentioned all that stuff that she wanted to be an actress in the original. Do they?
No, it's on you.
Yeah. See, that's all cool. That's all like that's nice stuff, and like her dad being part of whatever Shinra or whatever they're called, and then I don't know, just her story too. What bugs me though is that she supposedly died, right? Like we get what's his name, Biggs at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the question now, right?
What's up?
You mean Balthier?
Balthier. What?
He's the same voice actor for Balthier.
Oh, is he really?
And then like for the first 10 minutes, the only difference is he has like a more American accent for this one versus he does like a British accent for FF12.
I didn't know that.
Man,
cool.
I knew his voice. He's probably done a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, like the first 5 minutes I'm sitting there, I'm like, wait, I know this guy. I'm like, damn, this is Balthier. Like I'm pretty sure, and I searched it, and I'm like, yep, it's the guy. Like, so now I can't get that out of my head, and now you can't either. You're welcome.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. That's what you're here for.
So and Biggs got it the worst, right? Like he got to live with his cats, and then he got wrecked again. Like,
bro, that guy got disrespected.
Wedge, oh my God, Wedge didn't get Biggs got a dramatic scene. Jesse got a super dramatic scene. Wedge, he fell off the tower.
Yeah,
it's like they're like
on like floor 2, right? Like he didn't. Jesse's all the way at the top right before you fight everyone.
But the fact that you see Biggs at the end in his bed leaves us a question about Jesse and Wedge, right? So it's like, is Jesse alive? Maybe. And I feel like they did that 100% on purpose.
Yeah, so something's definitely changed there for like something else that changed. I don't remember happening. So, so did it happen because we got rid of the whispers when we did, or because? No, because I think it explodes before, right? Before we get to that part, like that's like chapter 14, right, or something like that. Earlier.
Yeah, so that's the big question, right? Because at least for me, like in the original, it never explicitly says that they're dead.
Oh, really? But we just never see them again, right?
You never see them again. Barrett, when the plate falls and everything, he goes nuts. But you don't ever get confirmation, and you don't ever get confirmation that the residents of Sector 7 got out either. You're left to assume that that everyone got crushed and that the rest of Avalanche died. Or actually, I shouldn't say the rest of Avalanche. That Biggs and Wedge and Jesse died, but it's never confirmed. So maybe my thought is maybe the Whispers. It's to put this in Doctor Who terms. It's not a fixed point in time. Essentially, like maybe they didn't interact with that at all.
I see.
Because I'm thinking you kill the Whispers after all of that.
Well, I really don't. I can't to make too much on that one because again, I didn't play the first one enough to remember it. I mentioned to Tacos that I was gonna play it again after this, but again, I just didn't want to go back into it right now.
No, I get it. It makes me want to play the original again for sure. And I've actually been holding off on hard mode specifically because I jumped in, like I finished the last chapter and I'm like, cool, chapter 1, hard mode, let's go.
Yeah, I did the same thing.
And I actually specifically stopped because I was like, no, like I want to stretch this out. I want to play this again in a little bit and, get to enjoy it versus binging the whole thing. Because I beat the entire game in 2 days.
Yeah, it took me a few days, but yeah. And honestly, it would have taken me longer if we were like under regular conditions and circumstances, but.
Right? The one good thing to come out of this is I get to play nonstop.
So here's a fun one for you though, guys. What was like your favorite moment in the whole game? Like as far as like video game itself, right? We're not talking like fan stuff and like what was the best part like that you were just like, man, this is the greatest thing that's happening to me right now. Tacos, start with you, David.
Oh no, he died.
Oh no! All right, we'll move on. We'll come back to him.
He's reading his notes.
No, it's okay.
No, sorry, there's something. I was helping my kid out.
You're good. You're good.
So what was the question?
Like your favorite moment, like when you realized this game was literally blowing your mind. All right, I'll come back to you again.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good.
Yeah, just
It's
come
fine.
back to me.
It's fine. I'll come back to you. I'll start off actually. So it actually happened when you get to Aerith, I believe, the first time. I can't remember the chapter, but I go talk to the little robot kid that does the battle simulations. What's his name?
I honestly don't remember. I just know him as the new Ingus. It's like, I have a new
Chadley.
recipe.
It's Chadley.
Chadley. So when I went back to Chadley, right, and then like he brings out the Shiva battle for me, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool, let's do this. I don't have Aerith with me right at this point because I think she's at her mom's or like I have to go get her or something, and so I go, oh man, let me try to do this Shiva battle, dude. I tried. First of all, that just fighting Shiva by herself was such an like insane battle, but I tried to solo her for 3 hours, and
Oh man.
dude, and I kid you not, I was like, man, either I'm really bad at this game or like she is really tough. And that's when it dawned on me that I'm like, man, this game is not easy, right? And I was just like, I was having a blast and I tried so hard. I did everything I could. Like I switched my attack elemental to fire. I was like at fire 3 already, like Firaga. And then like it was just a lot, right? And I did everything I could, but I couldn't get her past like half health. Because at half health she goes crazy, and usually when you get Blizzaga or whatever, you're supposed to rotate characters so to hit her and stuff. So I had no one to rotate to, but I was trying so hard to dodge everything, and I'm like, dude, this dodge has to be spot on for me to dodge all her like icicles and all her stuff, and I couldn't do it, man. I was literally frustrated. I was about to quit the night, like stop playing for that night, and then I go, nah, let me just go on and talk to Aerith, and then I'm like, oh, I get Aerith now. Maybe let me go see if she joins me in the battle simulator.
I can't imagine doing any of those solo. I specifically waited.
No,
I'm
dude,
not gonna lie, I did the same thing.
Really?
The
Dude,
first time.
you couldn't do it, right? Like if you did, like props to you, man. But I could not. Like
No, I didn't get it done. But like once I died the first time, I was like, yo, fuck it.
no,
I'm gonna
dude,
do
I promise you, like I promise you so hard, like everything. I was there, like button smashing and fixing my materia and trying to do everything I could just so I can like have every edge on her. I wasted all my items, like everything, and I couldn't do it. And I go, all right, I got frustrated. I left. I moved on. And then when Aerith was in there, first try, we got it. Like it was just me and Aerith, and we were able to do it. And I was like, well, I guess it wasn't.
So I actually did the same thing, and I attempted to solo Shiva, and I was running up against the wall for like, I don't know, man, like 5 or 6 attempts at least. And I did the same thing that you did. I did the elemental materia and I put the fire on it. I'm like, this was tried and true in the original.
Yeah,
this has got to be the way to do it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And then I noticed that like all her attacks were like magic based and it was all ice based. So actually, and the elemental materia as an attack in this game actually kind of sucks. Like it barely adds any damage.
Yeah,
is what I've noticed.
Yeah.
So in that fight, I actually swapped it to defense. And so I put the ice material with elemental on my defense and put high magic defense. And then you can you basically reduce all damage by half just right off the bat there.
But was it enough to solo her?
Yeah. You can I just cast regen on myself at the start of the fight and you never have to dodge anything.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Props to you, dude.
Yeah, dude.
Thanks, man.
Damn.
There you go, guys. You heard it here first. Solo strategy. Maybe not first, but you heard it here also.
I'm sure somebody else figured it out. It can't be that hard.
Solo strats. I don't know. Maybe I wasn't ready for it. I don't know. I was just so eager to try to solo her like pure damage and stuff.
Yeah, like I said, same thing for me. I always want to be like the damage dealer, but I was like, wait a second, this isn't doing any extra damage. Like, and then when you look at the defense thing, it's such a big like damage reduction that you get by using the elemental in defense that it's actually better than the offense.
That's good to know. I'm telling you, man, I learned all her tricks. Like you block the Blizzagas, you can dodge the Blizzaras, and you can. It was crazy. But yeah, for me, that's when it dawned on me like that this game was insane, and the boss fights really had me. Like the summon fights are by far the best fights, honestly. Like, and then other than that, the best boss battle in that game is Rufus and the dog. I don't care.
Yep.
Fight me. Let's go. Like it wasn't, it wasn't Sephiroth. Sephiroth was just crazy stuff, right? Nah. Rufus, dog, let's go. Who?
Straight up.
Do you agree?
Oh yeah, like I was gonna say, my favorite moments. I have the story-wise. I have the plate falling and you're ziplining.
Oh
Like
yeah, that was cool.
was my favorite story moment. This game, this turn. And then, but best gameplay, Rufus fight, hands down. That fight was so much fun.
Yeah, he's super cool. I have mad respect for that guy now as a character.
Yeah.
Sergio, what about you, man? Best moments?
Okay, so for me, the best moment where I went like full fanboy was actually when I summoned Ifrit for the first time. So I try to dodge a lot of like the media, but you see like the summons and like a lot of the trailers that popping up on Instagram and stuff. But like really like summoning him for the first time in a fight and like seeing that character up close, I like literally stood up in the chair and started cheering. Like my wife thought I was crazy.
Well, against which boss?
So that for me was the moment. And then favorite boss fight. That's really tough, but actually, I think it was the Hell House. To be honest with you.
Oh god, that thing was so horrendous. I wasn't ready for it.
Yeah, because it's just such an absurd like enemy in the game, and so like one of the things for me like coming into like there's a lot of absurd things in FF7, like just totally silly stuff. And I was like, are they gonna include things like that? And Hell House was one of the ones that like in my head I was like, are they really gonna let me fight a house? Like that doesn't make any sense. And they're like, not only did we add the house, sir, it's a boss fight. And I was like, yeah, you bet your sweet ass it is.
Yeah. That house was super annoying the first time. Like, I think I did lose to it the first time because I also wasn't prepared. I didn't have, like, I think I only had Cure and then, like, Thunder. And it's like, you have to fight, like, switch it. So I had to.
Yeah, that one has, like, specific requirements of you, like,
Yeah.
that it really wants you to, like, cast magic at certain points. And so if you're not, like, properly equipped for it, you're basically just dead.
Yeah, it's super hard. Like,
Yeah.
you have to just dodge everything and then wait till it switches to the weakness and then shoot it. Yeah.
Yep. That's how I did it, because I beat it on the first try, but it took me 30, 45 minutes.
Yeah, the boss battles weren't easy, man. I think that was the best part. Like I didn't feel like I didn't feel like I was cruising through the game. You know what I mean? Like it was tough, even on regular mode. And I can't, like, now that I have to go back on hard mode, I can only imagine it's gonna be longer. All right, Tacos. What about you? Are you ready?
All right.
All right.
God, it better be good.
Taking a laugh, but I think my favorite moment, and I think I had way too much fun with it, was the honey bean.
Oh
I
yeah.
had way too much fun with that.
Did you get?
I was like, yo, are they like, how good are they gonna do this? And I'm like, I'm so glad that they went like over the top with it. Like they had so much fun with it.
Yeah, they blew that one crazy. Like,
Yeah.
did you get a perfect score the first time?
I think I dropped like 2.
I dropped 2. I think it was 1 or 2, but I dropped it. I was like, no.
That was
Yeah.
just fun. And then
But
I think like you said, I think the best boss fight was the Rufus fight. It was intense. Like I'm like, cool, got rid of the dog, like just counter it, and then afterwards, like when he's alone, I was like, oh crap, I'm like, I don't know what the hell to do. He's just like flying around with the shotgun. I'm like, bro, what is going on? He just counters everything too when you try to swing. I don't know. I don't know how we got through it, but yeah.
Yeah.
I just use counter stance on him.
Yeah, that works. And then,
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I think I did what was it? Triple slash? Because I abused triple slash. That was probably the most used skill I did the whole game. So whenever he would,
100%. That's the best skill.
yeah,
Yeah,
as soon as he goes reload, I trigger it, and it always hits him, right? Like I was just in range for me to do it, and like I'd always like damage him that way, and that's how I think I got in there. And eventually, like I started figuring out his pattern more and more, and then I was like blocking the right shots and dodging the right things. But yeah, no, it took me a while to figure out his thing, and it was like the craziest one. Oh, did you guys get I was gonna ask you. Did you guys get the little summons, the carbuncle?
the DLC?
Yeah, the DLC.
Yeah.
I get the Cactor.
Oh, like, but I mean, like, you bought them, right? Like, we all got that.
I think it comes with like most versions of the game come with at least one of them.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Oh, because
Yeah,
because
and then I bought. I dished out the full 300.
Oh,
I
yeah,
got
yeah,
the-
money bags over
the
here.
statue, the play arts thing here and everything.
It is Papi Chulo.
I know, dude. He's the best, dude. No, it's just I realized what it would. I wonder what it would have been like without those. Like, because you can't like obviously for if you've played the game, you know you can't summon the big ones in just any fight, but you can summon those little ones just about all the time, in every fight.
Well, I mean, it's when the game finds the fight a little too difficult for you. That's when it does it. It's the same thing with the little ones too.
Oh, really? I never like. Whenever I was using the little ones, I never got prompted to use the bigger ones. Like on the fights that I guess it popped up for me.
You unlock the little ones. Like I feel like the difficulty in the fight has to hit a certain point. Like it has to feel like you're struggling a certain amount for the little ones, and you have to struggle more to get to the big ones.
Oh, really? I guess I never struggled that
because
much.
yeah, it
struggled
didn't
just
happen. It
enough.
happened to me once. I think where like I popped up and I was like, Ifrit, the fuck? Like how can I summon? But yeah, the little ones I had all the time.
Oh, okay.
I actually didn't end up using them all that much because by the time like I would have filled their meter, the fight was done.
Nah, I just like using Carbuncle. I think honestly the Carbuncle big head like grew on me so much. I loved him. I was like, I love Carbuncle so much.
They look
Yeah.
they look so much better in game than they looked in like
In the trailers and stuff.
Any of the still shots are yeah.
Yeah. I have to go back though. I'm gonna lie, since I kind of when I played the game, I just did I don't want to say the bare minimum, but I thought I was doing like all the quests and stuff. I didn't even unlock all the summons, the VR summons the first time around. I literally beat it with just Shiva and Fat Chocobo. So I have to go back. I started playing it again a little bit, and then I got Leviathan, and I know there's like a bunch more. I don't actually know all of them yet, so I'm gonna go back and do that.
That fight for Leviathan was crazy.
Leviathan was
I have to go back and finish Leviathan. But it goes on like you get Bahamut
Yeah,
if you go far
that's
enough.
spoilered already to me, but I don't know. I really want to see Ramu. I don't know if you guys know if he's in there.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No.
Ah, that's cool. Well, yeah, I got to go back and do those too. I don't know, man. Anything else you guys want to add? We can go back to the theory crafting. Anything? Any major notes we missed, David? Tacos?
I mean, I kind of have questions. Like,
Yeah, hell yeah. Let's go to Q&A, man.
Well, okay. So, like at the end, like, what's the deal? Like with Marlene, like she.
Oh, yes.
You know, like I think Elmira's calling her, and then like she's about to leave, and then she turns around. She's like, "Daddy," and so it's like I don't know what that's about. Like how she can, you know, she sees her dad. Like if she sees Barrett or what's going on.
So isn't in Marlene in Advent Children? Is Marlene in Advent Children?
Yeah.
She is.
Isn't she an ancient also, or no? Or isn't she connected somehow?
I thought that.
She's not an ancient, but there's something about her that's
Yeah, because when they send Aerith to go get her back from the bar, she does that forehead thing. They like touch foreheads, and she's like, "Oh, you're just like me." And I'm like, "What? You're an ancient? Since when?" I know she was like called for in Advent Children, right? Like that was the whole thing. They wanted to take her to the live stream. She's one of the children of Advent, I guess.
There's one moment in the original game where they kind of allude to it, and it really never gets touched again. But she sees like the events that are happening, like with Meteor and all that.
Yeah.
And she can sense Aerith, like in the live stream. So they kind of allude to it there for a moment. There's something special about Marlene, but they never really go into detail about it.
Damn, spoilers! Marlene dies instead of Aerith. Whoa.
Oh, that'd be so messed up.
Oh my god.
They can't do that.
That would oh my I can't
That
do
would
it.
kill me, bro. That would kill me.
I will say that as a father now, watching the scene where Marlene was like crying and looking for her dad, that was the only scene in the entire game that teared me up. And it was like, God, I don't know. She had like the same like dark hair as my daughter and everything. I was like, that murdered me watching that happen. Like, damn you, Bear.
It's too real. Go home and be a family man.
Be a family man.
Yeah.
I will say that the general acting all around was so spot on, and the voice acting on everyone, but Barrett's voice actor specifically, I think, and like they were all so well done. So yeah, it makes those moments super believable.
I agree. I agree. It didn't feel like I'm playing like a random game where it's like their dialogue feels disconnected and disjointed. I think it was very fluent. I agree. I can say I agree with you a lot there.
Yeah, it's been a while for me. Like, I think after 10, like, I felt like a disconnect with all the characters.
Yeah.
But with this one, I think every character, like I know I haven't really played 7, but like I'm playing this and I meet Aerith for the first time. I'm like, oh my god, we need to protect her. Like, she can't die. That's like the first thought that went in my head. Like, I loved her voice acting. Like everyone else too. Like, I think I almost cried too when the part where like the plate falls and Barrett's looking for everyone. He just like punches the wall. He's like, god damn it, just like, oh man, like I almost lost it there. But yeah, like everyone is just like a likable character. Like no one feels like an afterthought.
Yeah, everyone had their moment, which was good. Like, do you have any other questions, Tacos?
Questions. I don't know. Like, I wrote some stuff down, and like I don't know. I didn't write everything down.
I want to use up all your notes.
Anything.
I want to use up all your notes, bro. I don't want to leave anything unread.
I mean, I kind of went over it.
Oh, okay, good. What about you, Sergio? Anything we didn't touch on?
Oh man, there's so much. We could be here all day, right? Like, what did I want to go over? There's a couple things. In terms of like the difficulty, I felt like there was like a big like learning curve for the game. I don't know if you guys felt the same way. I know you said that you felt like the game was tougher. But once you start to figure out like some of like the mechanics for certain characters, I think the difficulty drops a lot. And I don't know if you guys like really got a chance to mess around with Aerith. I mean, not Aerith, sorry, with Tifa.
Oh yeah,
Tifa is
busted.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Super busted in the game. The ability to increase the percentage of damage done during stagger makes her just absurd. And there was like many times like in a boss fight where I was using her, and the boss would like stop me from dealing damage and have like a little like stop signal over the health bar and be like, "Hey man, sorry, I'm about to go into a cutscene. You can't kill me yet." I hated that.
I didn't figure out Tifa's the thing around Tifa's triangle ability, like for martial arts, till way late in the game. And when I did, I felt so stupid. I was like, "Oh my god, this is so effing powerful. How have I not been using this entire time?"
Honestly, like I set her to leader when I had her, and I just like when I got Star Shower and the Chakra Orb or whatever, I just like those were just trapping everyone and spamming like mad damage. It was great. I had none of
Oh yeah,
she was the best. Honestly, she was the best playable character in my opinion, like 100%. I focused like I was always her as leader. Everything unless I had to switch, I didn't. I'd always go back to her.
I actually bounced around constantly. She was my favorite to play, honestly, especially once I figured the martial arts thing out. But I loved countering with Cloud, and then I always had one range, whether it was Barret or Aerith, and they ended up also acting as my healer with raise and cures and all that. But yeah, I constantly found myself switching between them. I mean, we can talk mechanics if you guys want, but
Yeah.
The AI seemed like I wish it could have been a little bit better because a lot of times they're just defending if you're not controlling them. So I was bouncing around between ATB gauges and like burn, ATB, okay, switch.
Yeah, and
do something, ATB, switch.
And I think I mentioned that to you guys when the demo came out. I was like, oh, this is super cool. Like, use their abilities and switch out, and then, like, use their abilities and switch out and stuff. The switching was key or whatever. And going back to Sergio's point, how, like, the battles got easier. I think it got easier if you used Assess a lot. Like, if you don't use Assess, you're done, right? Like, I don't know if you guys felt like that, but...
I didn't assess. Like, after 40, 50 enemies, I was like, I'm done with this.
Yeah, I only assessed just for the parts. I didn't really die in the game. I think it was really just like that one Shiva fight that I didn't know, and I never really died again.
Really? Oh man, I feel like a noob then. I my first actual death was to Reno in the church. He legit.
Awkward.
No, where?
Counter, man. Counter's your best friend.
The Cloud's counter.
I kind of, I think, I don't know what happened though. I think I got stuck in like all his stupid like electric orbs, like at half health. He throws them all out. And I was like, what the hell? And I couldn't, like, I just couldn't. And then I was like, okay, well, let's all calm down here. Yeah, it was my first death, I think.
I think when you switch Cloud's modes and you start going into that that high damage mode, and you gain the ability to counter, like Cloud really just becomes absurd. And as soon as you stagger people and you start like hitting them with like early on what you use Braver, and then later you can use the Infinity Edge move.
Yeah.
His damage is just crazy.
Yeah.
Tifa to raise the stagger percentage and then Infinity Edge followed up. Oh my god, wrecks so many things.
Yeah.
I also used Infinity Edge, like that's how I did all the side games or whatever. I got like the best score in all of them. I had to use Infinity Edge to do it to break like the big giant 1500 blocks.
Wait, is Infinity Edge the weapon or like the ability?
It's the ability that uses both ATB gauges and he spins up and then like slams down.
You made it sound like it's a weapon. I'm like, oh man, I didn't grab that one either.
That's a good question. Which weapon were you guys using for Cloud?
I think
Hard
Ultimate.
Edge.
Huh?
Hard Edge.
Hard Edge. I think at the end of the game I went back to the Buster Sword.
I switched between the Hard Edge and Buster Sword quite a bit, and then at the very end with the Twin Blades, I think I ended up using that one.
That one was like really magic heavy. I mean, I didn't look at it after you unlocked like the last spheres for it or anything, but it seemed like it was more like magic gear.
It's actually balanced.
Yeah.
Like when you max it out, it gives you like the same amount of stats and like attack and magic.
Interesting.
But the ability from it is super good, like especially in hard mode. It's absurd.
Which
you think the regular counter is good.
Oh, the super counter.
That one is delicious.
Yeah.
Oh, it's actually a different counter? Is that what it is?
Yeah. It's I forgot the name of it, but it's like counter something. You just set it up just before you take the hit, and he follows up with a counter like immediately, but it does like a bunch of damage. And
you mean the counter stance, like the actual ability?
Counter stance.
Gotcha.
That's how I had to beat Sephiroth at the end because like I couldn't get my regular counter off and I couldn't get the just wasn't doing enough damage. But that counter staggers so much that like I did a combination of that and limit breaks, and it was just that counter stance is that ability is super awesome. And then in hard mode, I actually died to the what is it, the dog in chapter 3 or whatever.
Which one?
In hard mode, like when you're doing the side quests and they're like, oh, go clear out this monster or whatever. In chapter 3 in Sector 7 slums.
Yeah.
In hard mode, I wasn't expecting hard mode to be that much harder.
Oh, I see.
And it wrecked me. I was like, whoa, where did that come from? So the counter stance is what got me through it.
Yeah, no, hard mode is like actually really hard. You have to like max out your characters before you even try it.
Yeah, honestly, what bugs me about hard mode is like, no, you can't restore the MP on the benches. So like, you really have to reserve MP and have MP at max.
I don't know why you can't use items in hard mode. That doesn't make any sense to me.
I didn't use items in the regular mode.
I loved using.
To be honest,
I loved items.
I had to use items, but only to like restore MP.
See, that's the thing. I used Phoenix Downs until I got Raise, and then once I got Raise, I used that. And there was enough benches and everything that I was pretty much okay for the most of it. I also had I'd always had my range person doing the healing and stuff, but then I always had a second person with backup. So like if someone's dropping an MP, that second one can swap over. And you do regain MP in between fights when you break crates, and I broke every crate I saw. Yeah. So maybe that was part of it too. But yeah, the no items, I'm like, whatever.
When you get to, I jumped to chapter 17, and the no items is annoying.
Yeah, you're gonna have to like put healing on everyone in hard mode.
Yeah, healing on everyone.
At least some form.
And then MP restore.
Like chakra and prayer is like really good in hard mode.
That's good to know. I think I did chapter 1, 2, and then 17. Because I wanted to go back to do the VR missions. I didn't do any of the VR missions.
The VR missions are so much fun.
Was there?
I think that's one of my favorite elements of the game is VR missions.
Really?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah, VR missions and the the arena that they had at Walmart. I actually love those kinds of like quick combat scenarios. Kind of reminds me of you guys ever played the Arkham games? Where they have like those challenges. I love that actually. I think that's great. I hope they add more it's a great avenue for DLC too. Like they can always just add a bunch of fights in there while we wait 7 years for the next installment.
I actually 100% expect them to add different summons and stuff in the VR missions.
I'm actually just happy I got to fight a behemoth. Andy said it wasn't going to happen, and I was like, nah, they're not going to not give me a Final Fantasy game and not let me fight a behemoth. That's like their signature. That's like their signature like big boss monster, right? Like random side quest big boss monster. It was funny that it was a typo one, but it was cool that I got to see him. That's all.
You fight the other one in the VR mission?
No, not yet. I haven't. Like I said,
that one's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't wait. All right. Well, I think that's about all of it, man.
So I've got one question for everyone.
All right. I'll hear
mechanics.
Oh, okay.
What did everyone think? What did everyone think about the mechanics? I think personally, the fighting system in this one is the best so far.
It's a lot better than Kingdom Hearts, I think, and it's definitely not 13 or 12. So I'm very happy with it.
Wait, you don't like 12's combat?
No.
Oh no, that game's so great.
No, the game is. I'm sure the game is really great, but that arc system is not.
Actually, so I was playing through this and I many times was thinking I wish they had a gambit system like in 12.
Oh, the gambit.
Where I could
program the AI
to be like, hey, this is what I want you to do.
No,
at this moment, because it would be many times one of the things you guys are saying is switching back and forth, but in reality the rate at which you're gaining ATB with each character is essentially the same. So you don't really have to switch between characters at all unless you want a specific ability to be used by a character. So your characters, when they're out of when you're not in control of them, they kind of just don't do anything. They even gain ATB really slowly. They don't Barrett's just sitting there and he'll shoot and then wait and then shoot and then wait. I'm just keep shooting. Why are you not shooting anymore? So for me, I wish there was a way to have a little bit more automatic control over those characters, and 12 is exactly what I was thinking of.
In regards to their AI, yes, I agree with you 100%. But in terms of that arc system where you and you just wait, nah, I'm done with that.
No, yeah, but I'm the same boat. I was talking about earlier with the AI. I was thinking the exact same thing as I was playing. I was like, man, having if you're gonna give me the AI, give me the gambit system. I don't like the idea of unlocking the gambit system. That shouldn't be something you unlock. But being able to set what if scenarios and actions and stuff, I would have appreciated that dramatically, because then I could be like, okay, hey, if this person falls below a certain HP, Barrett, heal them.
Or at the very least, more material like the auto cure and the chain magic one, right? Because it's whenever you cast thunder, he'll cast thunder, stuff like that. And then whenever, obviously, auto cure when someone falls below certain health. But yeah, more stuff like that to program them somehow.
I was actually pretty comfortable with it. I had played, I don't know if you guys have played Knights of the Old Republic, but it reminded me very much like that, where you have several characters and you have to give each of them commands. At first it's a little overwhelming, but the more you play it, it becomes easier. You just control one character, you give the other ones commands, and then if you need to build up ATB, you just switch over so that you get the ATB, you switch over to the character that you want, and you just keep on doing the commands. So it wasn't so frustrating for me. It felt like that, and it felt like Kingdom Hearts, both of them put together.
And I think
I like Kingdom Hearts combat, except for the last one, Kingdom Hearts 3. That was terrible.
I still haven't finished it.
I need to. So this is where my disclaimer comes in. I've only played part of the first one, and I've always wanted to go back, but the first one gives me a headache, so I can't play it for an extended period of time. So I've actually been thinking about lately just skipping the first one and going to the second one and playing through the story.
Just watch the hour-long video on YouTube explaining the whole timeline, and then go to the end, and that's it. You'll be fine.
It's only an hour. I think you need more. Honestly,
no, he does a good job explaining everything from the first one through all the Game Boy games and stuff. It's pretty good.
Yeah, that storyline is wild. We could do 6 podcasts on that. That's a crazy ass.
You won't have me doing that. I'm not that big of a fan of that one. After the first one, like actually after the second one, I got tired of it. I was like, nah, you win, man. You got it. you earned it, Heartless. You really took the fun out of this one, bro. Let me tell you. You took the heart out of this.
That's a thing for me. So like I played the Kingdom Hearts games first before 7. So I'm going in like thinking on Sephiroth's personality and Aerith like from the Kingdom Hearts game. That's why like it completely caught me by surprise. Like the Kingdom Hearts versions, like they're nothing like how they are like in 7. It's crazy. I know like a lot of people have like gripes with like was it the guy who made this one like also did Kingdom Hearts as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's Tetsuya Nomura.
Yeah, so it's crazy how like the personalities are like different on both of them. But I don't like I said earlier, like I loved every character like in this game. But it's funny like coming from that before expecting one thing and just like getting something else.
Yeah, I think that's another thing that a lot of people weren't expecting either. So when you see like Cloud specifically in like any other form other than from the original game, he's just a total like badass. Like he's just cool as shit badass. But if you play through the original game, he's a very very damaged character and like very like emotionally weak. You know what I mean? He's not in a good place, and that's because he's this failed experiment basically, and so that one of the things that they warned people going into this was that hey, like Cloud's not a total badass, by the way, just so you know. This is his origin story basically, and in anything else, even in Smash, he's just super cool. So anywhere else you look, he's a total badass.
That's true. I never thought about that. Like, if you've never met this Cloud before anything else, you go in, you're like, oh my god, Cloud, I get to play Cloud, this is gonna be awesome. And then you come into this, you're like, oh, what the hell?
And then maybe this time, actually, because of the way the story's like turning out to be, or like it's being rewritten, that he might actually be a badass this time.
Yeah, I mean, he was pretty badass in this game. He has some pretty cool moments. Like even early on, like when he does that whole like anime jumping on the collapsed bridge. And gives Jesse that little wink, that little sly wink. He's like, "Yeah, I just anime jumped up here." So yeah, he has some pretty badass moments.
I think they did a good job of fleshing his character out a little bit more in this one because, like, in the original, he doesn't even have like probably not even half the voice lines he has in this one, and I think they all suit his character very, very, very well. Whereas like before, I think it was more left up to your imagination, and you had all those sentences where it's just like him responding. It's ellipses. It's like ...
Yeah, and he kind of just like shrugs at everything. You just see his character look at the camera and shrug, like whatever.
Yeah. So I think all the extra dialogue they gave for him here, and the way he shrugs off Jesse, and the way that his back and forth with Barrett, and just all the interactions. I think they really did a good job of, again, this is one of those moments, like one of those instances where they added more and it felt like it should have been part of the original. And that's part of it, right? Like, I don't know if any of you guys read this, but I was reading or I saw, I don't know, it was one of the interviews, and they were talking about how it's a lot of the original team that's working on this. So everything that they wanted to put in the original but couldn't, they were able to like elaborate and do all of that, and they were able to do that organically because all the stuff that they had thought about way back when, it just wasn't in the game because of hardware capacity and time and all that stuff.
No, I hadn't heard that actually.
Yeah, it's because it's the original team. Like all of the stuff they had already thought of in the past that they weren't able to put in, they can now put in, which I think is great. So it adds to what I was talking about. Like it's organic. Like them adding that whole section for Jesse, it fits in with the way that Jesse, like it's so believable because I think that's how they envisioned Jesse in the beginning. You just didn't get all that. You didn't get all that stuff flushed out. What did you guys think of? I forget what chapter it is, but one of the moments I was really looking forward to in this game was when you get captured in the Shinra building and wake up. I'm talking about in the original, where you wake up and there's blood everywhere.
What did I think about the original, or when that happened here?
Both. Like that was the moment. That was one of the few moments I was like 100%. I was like, oh man, I'm so looking forward to this moment. And then how it played out in the remake.
I'm trying to actually recall what the moment you're talking about. If anybody can chime in here while I think.
They kind of like skip it in this one, right? Like they never do get imprisoned like that.
Right. So you don't get imprisoned, but you still have the blood trail. But it's not even blood. It's like ectoplasm or whatever that stuff was.
That was disappointing, but overall, not the worst thing in the world, because like already at this point, like I'm sucked into the game, like, and I'm not even thinking about like what's supposed to happen here. Like I'm letting it like guide me, and so I think the story is told really well, so where that doesn't matter. But it is like a really cool moment in the original game that's pretty intense, right? Like when you go and you see this blood trail and you follow it out of the prison. Like I now that you mention it, it's the first time I really thought about it, and I guess I miss it a little bit, but I don't think it like negatively affects the remake.
Okay, yeah, I don't remember too much on it, but you said like a prison. I would assume like in that part where they had they were holding Genova. I guess it's kind of the prison. It seems like it. I mean, maybe they not skipped it, but I think that's what they did.
Yeah, in this one, you don't get arrested. You're not put into the cells. You're not knocked out. You're doing the whole. I think it happens right around the whole Hojo piece where he's like making you go through all the different sections, and then you are dealing with some other stuff, and you come back and like there's just the ectoplasm or whatever, like the guts all over the place. And I don't know, maybe because it was such a strong moment for me when I played the original. That's why I was looking forward to it. Whereas if I wasn't, I wouldn't, like you guys, I wouldn't have missed it. And I think the story went organically in the remake. But yeah, I don't know. I was disappointed because for in the original, that's the moment you meet that's the moment Sephiroth is first mentioned. You see the sword and you're like, oh. And like the entire time you're walking through and you're like, what happened here? Like what's going on? Like there's all this mystery in that moment. And then you see the sword and that's when Sephiroth's mentioned and you're like, oh shit. Now granted, I think they did a good job. I like the way that they're telling the story in this one. And so Sephiroth's brought in earlier. And that kind of ties him in so that you have him in there in the first game. So it doesn't make sense to have that suspense and that build up in that scene here, but I don't know. It was a key piece for me, and I was like, oh, okay. I guess we don't get that.
Yeah, not being like an original, like I said, from like not being a fanboy from the original, I can't even make a comparison there, right? Like it didn't connect for me like it does for you.
That's fair.
So I had one moment like that for me. Was the part where you're climbing to slave the plate, like which is in the original. That's the moment where all the members of Avalanche die, and it obviously little bit graphics and all that. It's very hard to tell what's happening, but like for me, that's a really emotional scene because it happens fairly quickly. Like as you're scaling this tower, you watch each of the three members of Avalanche die, and when you first get there, like Wedge does not take a small tumble. Like he comes from like the top of the tower and lands on the floor, and it's pretty much understood like he's dead. Like after he talks to you for a second, you go up and then you find the other members dead, and then you get to the top and the story continues on. The plate collapses and everything, and I feel like that was like a really emotional death, like in the original game, and then here like Wedge doesn't die. He takes a smaller fall and then continues on, and he's actually even like kind of silly in that moment. So it takes some of the emotion out of that, and then when you go up, they have the moment where like Jesse dies and everything, but you just don't feel it as much. I don't know why. Maybe because I was expecting it to happen or anything. I just didn't feel the deaths that much, and then they bring them back again at the end. Like Wedge comes back and they show Biggs, and I was like, they're kind of cheapened that moment for me a little bit. But I mean, that's just like the smallest gripe of small gripes, I guess.
That's funny. I actually felt it more this way than in the original, because I remember what you're talking about. How you see him fall, and yeah, like I said before, like they didn't expressly say that he was dead, but you pretty much like, yeah, no, you fell from, you're dead.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, but I don't know. I guess I would say that I do agree that I wish it was faster. Like that's one of the moments I felt like was drawn out a bit more, and I wish that had gone a little bit faster, and you could get to Jesse, get to Biggs, and then get to the top. Instead of like, you're like, oh God, running in circles. Oh, another fight. Oh, this. But yeah, those moments were still like, I still like that you had those very specific moments with Jesse, and very specific moment with Biggs, and you're like, oh shit.
I think that you're right. I think that's a scene that's dragged out like way too long. That's probably what affects like the emotion in it. Because in the original, it's boom, boom, boom. These guys are dead, and you have to save this thing. Like you need to move. Like it adds like a sense of urgency, and like it makes the story a little bit more intense in that moment. And then here it's like, oh, look at these perfectly paced crates. Now you got to walk all the way around this thing to get to this ladder, which only takes you halfway. Now you got to go all the way back around. Oh wait, more crates. Oh wait,
Yeah.
okay, here's the dead character from Avalanche. Now you can have their death scene or whatever. So it was like, all right, you're dragging this. Like this should have been something that happened quickly so that you can feel the intensity of it.
Yeah. I will put two things out real quick. One, what did you guys think of like the expansion on Avalanche and like the mentions of the rest of Avalanche and how these guys were split off? And two, well, actually, I'll leave that one out and get your guys' thoughts.
I don't know. So again, I think the problem for me is that a lot of the times, if you don't know stuff from the original, some of this doesn't make sense. So like the fact that they have all those other Avalanche branches, like when they come save you when you're fighting Roche or whatever, and what's his name? The other guy on the bike, Roche, right?
I think it was.
Yeah.
Roach, yeah.
We're gonna have to talk about.
Yeah, that was my next point too. I was gonna bring that up actually.
That was number two.
But like again, if I don't know the story and stuff, some things like are disconnected. So things like that, and when they mention Wu Tai and stuff like that, like if I don't know these things already, it's just like what?
That's fair. Again, and that's where I think like this game is definitely meant, or was like built, like with everyone who's played this has played the original in mind, or like knows of the original.
Yeah, I think that's very true. I think to get max enjoyment out of this game, you have to know what's happening in the original. Where like when I first started playing it, I didn't feel that way, and then as things started progressing more and we start getting more into this whole Whispers thing, like that's when, and like Fate and all that, like especially at the end, I was like, ooh, you really should know this stuff before you come into this game.
Yeah. So okay, let's talk about Roche then.
He doesn't die, right? Like, is it me?
He's not.
No, he doesn't die.
He didn't die, right?
He's not part of the original, right?
No, of course
He's
not.
Not at all.
He's not. He's a totally new character.
And then that's it. He just disappears. This is done.
Exactly. He just poofs. Like I feel like his entire section of the game was like, okay, hey, we're just doing this to add like an hour of gameplay here.
Yeah, I agree. I was like, I like the story that led up to like that, but having him there was first of all, I thought having him was cool, but then there was no resolve, and he didn't. I expected there to be some kind of more chase from him for you, like later in the game that he showed up, but there wasn't. Like, I was
expecting.
Sorry. I was gonna say is that I actually forgot about him until later, and I go, oh yeah, that happened. Like because it was so disconnected. Also, like it happened and then it was gone, and then that's it. No more.
I fully expected him to come back at the end of the game when you're like riding out of Midgard.
Yeah,
that was the perfect time to bring him back.
Exactly, or anything, or like when you're trying to cross the when you go up the wall or whatever, and you're trying to get in there into Shinra. Like anywhere in that little spot when it's like the last thing, or give me or let him die and then give me another soldier. That would have been cool too. I thought it was cool that they brought another soldier. Period, someone new to fight because it's dumb to me that like the only soldier classes are like Zack, Cloud, and Sephiroth, right? And like it's cool that he's also a soldier, but show me more. Give me more of them. I don't know.
You'll probably see him in the next month.
I'm hoping.
Because okay, so I mean, like he doesn't. We never like. It's probably the first time we see him because that whole thing with you trying to get the stuff to make the bomb that never happened in the original either, right?
Yeah.
So it's like already like
Right.
there's so many things like in the timeline that's already changing. Um, that's why like we're introduced to like this new character. I think like probably if it happened in the original, you ended up going that way, you probably would have met Roche, I guess, but it didn't happen. Yeah. And I don't know, man. Like he's weird, man. He's almost feels like an anime character, and I was seeing this thing that's so funny that I never played Crisis Core myself, but they were saying how like Zach is basically like just like the most normal guy in the whole game, and he's kind of like, what the hell is going on? Like, why is everything so crazy? Like as far as like the rest of the soldiers, and like, that's what he feels like. Just I don't. It's funny that he feels sort of like an anime character, and I do hope that there should be more in the next part. We'll see what they do with that.
So it looks. So just I was gonna wrap this up, but it looks like we have a special guest on. Alejandro, do you hear me? Nah, I think he muted himself and walked away.
Yeah.
Another.
No, I'm here. What's up?
What's up, bro? Welcome, Alejandro,
Hey,
to today's FF7 remake discussion. Glad you could join us for a late session here. I hope you don't mind me just throwing you in here.
No, no problem. I mean, I was just listening in. Sounds like we're discussing remake, which is exciting.
Yeah, so we were kind of winding down when you jumped in, but I'm never gonna say no to you. So why don't you just jump in here and give us your full 5-minute thoughts on the game from start to end?
Yeah, sure. So I actually spoke with Ducasi about this as well. So here's the thing, guys. Like, my favorite anime in the entire world is Neon Genesis Evangelion. And if that anime is still my favorite after the way it ended, then I'm pretty easy to please, right? So for me, FF7 Remake was fine. Like, as soon as I saw that the dog was different, I realized, okay, we're in the alternate dimension. That's what's going on here. All of these events, they're doing this so that they don't have to stay fully on board with the original story. They can take creative freedom because we're in an alternate timeline now. And so everything just kind of falls into place for me. Now, a lot of people are mad because I guess there was a promise that it was going to be fully faithful to the original. There were going to be no changes. I guess that doesn't really bother me too much because I, on purpose, stayed away from all information on this game before it came out. So I didn't go into it with that expectation that it was going to be a one-to-one copy, right? So for me, guys, I thought it was great. The gameplay was good to go. The music was beautiful. And, the final 30 minutes was a little bit of some drug-induced haze there, but, everything's better than Evangelion, so we're good there. Easy to please.
That's great, man. Thanks. Appreciate you coming in with that one. All right.
Yeah, I mean, no problem.
So, David, you had Tacos. You had one more question for us, I think. What was that?
Just out of curiosity, how do we think the beginning of the next part is going to start? Like, what's this?
So, I guess my question is because again, it's been a while for me. I don't remember. From here, they end up where originally in the next part? Like in the original,
So-
where do they're leaving? They leave Midgar, right? And
They end up having in the original. They have no direction.
Okay.
And they were running for survival, and they end up in Calm, and you end up going through what felt like an hour-long exposition from Cloud, but you already know a lot of that in this version, and they have a direction now. So I feel like that whole Calm piece is just going to be skipped entirely.
And then isn't that like after that you get the chocobo and you go through the lake or whatever with the serpent, right? Or is that am I lost there?
I think it's a little later in the game.
Yeah, it's not too far after that. You're pretty close.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we start at the snake and they're like, who did this? And then No, this is really for the fanboys. So Sergio and Ducati, where do you guys know everything that happens in between? Where do you think it starts, and how far? Let me add to that question too. Where do you think it starts, and how far do we get in the next game? Like, do we even make it to what's that fun town called? Golden Saucer, or do we even get to the High Wind? Is there ever gonna be like free roaming world like in this one?
I actually think the second game will be the open world game. Like, I think each one might be a different style, but I definitely think the second one's going to be the open world. Because if you're going to be, there are so many different places to go and so many different things to do that, and granted, what I'm talking about now is back when they were originally talking about 3 games in general. I was thinking you have Midgar, you have the open world, and then you get into the last series of things. But now they're extending it more than that, so this may not apply anymore. But I think this is going to be the open world. I think this is where you're going to get Gold Saucer. I think this is where you're going to get Barrett's backstory, and you're going to dive into the other characters. You're going to go to Wu Tai in the second one.
Sergio?
Yeah, I agree. I think that's what they're going to do. I think that seems to me like what's going to happen is the second game is going to be more open world. I wouldn't be surprised if honestly it comes out sooner than we think. Kind of just like follows like the same engine, and you know what I mean. Like it kind of just is going to be a continuation of this. Like we all start off at level 50, and it's just going to be open world kind of game. Because I don't think there's anything in this version of the game that we've seen so far that's kind of like makes your characters broken or anything like that. There is no like end game progression. It kind of just stops at 50. That's what it seems like to me anyways. So it leaves it in a good place where you could easily continue.
What about you, Taco? Is your question your answer?
All right. Yeah, no, for sure. It definitely has to be open world. I mean, I feel like the first part of it, like up to Midgar, is kind of linear, anyways. But I was more thinking of like, you know, like kind of like exactly how it'll start. Like, it seems a little broken going into like the second part with like all your materials like at max. Like if you do hard mode and everything, like you'll have all your stuff at max. You know, I know Yuffie is an optional character, but I feel like you'll get all your materials stolen, and so you kind of have to like start over again, sort of. Like you'll still be at like level 50, but she does steal your stuff, right? I don't know that much. Like,
yeah. She steals everything, and then you have to chase her down.
Yeah, but does she happen right after you leave? No, right? Like
not right after, but
it's a good reason to start fresh in the second one.
Right.
And so,
if there were a way to do it, that would be the way to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Since like the timeline has changed, I think she'll take your material and she'll sell it. So now you're gonna have to get all your material.
Oh, what a bee!
that would actually be super frustrating.
Yeah.
It's frustrating, but I mean, what are you gonna do? You're gonna start like, oh, I already got everything like at max. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, and I had mentioned that
think,
like earlier. I don't know how they're planning on transitioning everything, and that's part of the problem I have with X parts, like going into part 7 of FF7 again.
So the thing there, I like the games that I pull from in an instance like this is Mass Effect is the first one that comes to mind, right? And in that one, you always have an excuse to basically start from scratch, but your save file still continues because all your decisions and everything still go forward. I could see them honestly going either direction. I would like to see them definitely continue and pull your character forward, and then doing something creative like you said with Yuffie and having her steal your stuff now. But even if they don't do something like that, I think they can still continue your story and keep your choices, and then you just either start at level 1 or, even if they do start you at level 50, like honestly, they could just make the game scale with you. So the level doesn't really matter to me. It's a matter of, do you keep your materia and items and skills? And I think the answer to that, at least the skills, is probably going to be yes. Or they could, and this is what I think the next one's going to start off at, you don't even follow these, you don't even immediately start with them in the second one. You actually go to Zach's timeline and play that for a bit in the beginning of the next one.
Oh, Please, that would be amazing.
Imagine like you start all over again from the beginning, like the first reactor, but instead of Cloud, it's Zach jumping off the train.
Oh man.
Hey guys, we made FF7 remake or remake alternate timeline.
That would be
It's
something.
gotta have like one of those really like Kingdom Hearts names though. It's got to be like FF7 remake ... re edit zap over 2 divided by 2.
I do think that it's going to come out quicker than we think, though, because I think a lot of the groundwork, the engine, the character designs, all of that has already been done. Now, yeah, I mean, granted, you're not using Midgar anymore, so they have to create the new environments, but I think that's about it. You know, the story beats are there. I think they have that planned out probably already. So it's just a matter of creating the environment.
I guess we'll have to wait and see, man. I really agree that I don't think we're going to be waiting as long. I think early next year probably. That's ambitious, but we can dream. Alex.
Yeah, that's super. With no announcement or anything.
Yeah. They're just going to be like, all right, guys, here's part 2, go.
I mean, Resident Evil did it that way.
Yeah, and we're already getting another remake for
They
that.
also released it like a 10-hour game, so a little different.
This is true, yeah.
I think that's going to wrap us up, guys. Just the final question, and I think this one's just for fun, obviously, and this goes to everyone. Who wins the waifu trophy? Is it Aerith, Jesse, or Tifa, man? Like, anybody?
I think
This is a fake question, right?
No.
It's Tifa.
In this one, I gotta give it to Tifa though.
Yeah,
It's 100% Tifa.
Tifa.
Tifa definitely wins it, but like I like Jesse a lot. Like kind of the crazy adrenaline rush junkie. I'm all about it. But Tifa definitely still wins.
Yeah, Aerith loses this time. I feel like I just all in all, without her knowing, being all knowing or whatever, she still felt airheady to me, and I'm just like, nah, I'm good, Doug. All right, guys. Thanks again for jumping on here with me. I really appreciate all of you. I hope we can do this again for when we can talk about TCG some more soon. Say goodbye, everyone. I'll have links in this description for the Arcanum, TCG Titans. I'm gonna put Taco's Facebook so you can go bug him. And you
Yes.
and most of you already know, and most of you know Alejandro already. So we'll see you guys next time, man. Thanks for coming in, guys.
See you guys.
Thanks, see ya.